It's me, episode 80 of the W.I.L.L.I.W show, which stands for Wrestling is Life. Life is Wrestling. Now I got a bunch of questions to ask, and I don't really know the answers to. What is proper wrestling etiquette? Everybody's got different opinions, and when I was broke into the business, it's a lot different than it was now. Now, what I was taught is to shake every single person's hand, introduce yourself to them, not just the wrestlers, anybody that was working in the arena, be very polite. And then I was taught in the locker room to not say anything to anybody unless I was spoken to first, to keep quiet, remain humble. Now it's a different atmosphere now. When I go in the locker rooms, a lot of people are goofing off and having fun, which to me is not a bad thing. People should be able to have fun. Like, we're not doing this like to be super serious. It's not like we're in jail or something. But I mean, I was totally taught different, and sometimes when I see people acting a fool, I can't help but not like it, just because I was never allowed to do that. But sometimes times change for the better, and a lot of times that shows when I see new wrestlers. I mean, I look really young, so maybe they don't think I'm a veteran or whatnot. So a lot of people don't come up and shake my hand and introduce themselves. But is that something we have to do now? Like, have we gone past that? Is it cool now? Like, I'm not sure. I kind of think that you should, but at the same time, how do you know who's the veteran or not? It's like, I've been working one more month than you, so you gotta approach me. I don't know how it works, and how do you know? You might not know these people. You might not even know they're a wrestler. So for me, to be on the safe side, I try and shake everyone's hand and introduce myself, and sometimes I don't do that all the way, but I really should. And then what's the proper etiquette as far as like if you're wrestling against somebody? I was always taught if someone has been in wrestling longer than you, then you just yes sir, no sir, whatever they want, you do. But what if someone has been wrestling for 15 years and has only wrestled one match a month, and then there's this other guy who's been wrestling 5 years and wrestles like 4 matches a weekend? Who really is the veteran? And what if you wrestle some guy, yeah, he's been around and he's friends with the promoter, so that's the only reason he gets booked on this one show, and he's not a very good wrestler, and he wants to do all these things. Should you just be quiet and agree to it all? What if he wants to do something that you're not comfortable with, or you don't find safe, or it doesn't make any sense completely? When are you allowed to speak up? And when is it that you do become a veteran? I never got a thing in the mail with a little ribbon or a badge or a medal saying, you are now a veteran of wrestling and everyone should look up to you. I think it's all subjective. It's like a lot of people, like for me, for instance, a lot of people know me and they're like, oh, he's been around forever. But some people come to the show, they're like, who's this guy? I've never met him. Is he even a wrestler? Or is he just a ref or what? And like, for me, like, okay, so I have my answers, but they're not all right. But like, the way I feel is I'll do pretty much anything if it makes sense. And if I know I can pull it off well. Like, if someone wants me to do some flippy spot and land on my feet, and I know I can't do it well, and I've screwed it up in the past, I don't necessarily want to do that. And some of these spots are not that important. Do we need to plan all these? Like, to me, it's like we could go out there and wrestle and use the crowd, that you don't need to plan all this stuff. But if you are going to plan it, I don't want to plan too technical things where it's got to be perfect, it's got to be 2 punches here, it's got to be 17 reversals. Like, if it makes sense, or if you're the main event, or I think also it comes with time when you've wrestled someone more than once and you feel comfortable and you know how their timing is. I think that's the best thing, is like, then you could try out different things with them, but the first time it's just mostly a feeling out process. But I want to know other people's opinions too. Like, please tell me, like, what are the rules of the backstage? Like, what are you allowed to say? Are you allowed to make jokes with somebody that you don't really know? I don't know. It might offend them, but at the same time, if you don't make any jokes, they might not like you. What if you make a joke and they're like, "Oh, this guy's actually pretty cool." Like, it's a different business. A lot of it's changed for the better, and maybe some of it has changed for the worst. And like, when you're what about when the promoter tells you to do something and it doesn't make sense? They're paying you for you, But what if you have an idea or a suggestion? Can you say, yes, sir, I'll do whatever you want, but what about this? Do you like this idea? Like, is it okay to propose your own idea? I guess it depends how long you've been working for the company. Or what if you're one of these guys that's like wrestling everywhere and you've been in TNA or WWE and stuff like that? Then do you have more pull even though you're new to the company? I know like a lot of stars, the old 80 stars, when they come in, they're like, this is what I'm doing and that's it. But most of that's agreed upon before they even accept the booking. And like also like with a veteran, like if I'm wrestling some guy that's been wrestling 10 years more than me, and he's telling me the whole match, I always thought just yes, that's fine. And but like, is it okay for me to suggest something? And like, I try and just go with what they're going with. Like this is a message for the younger wrestlers who are wrestling guys that have been around longer than you. Like see what the guy's saying, what he wants to do, and if you can contribute something that's going with what he's already saying, and like say, hey, you want to do this and this, well, what if we tease this here and then put this here, and it adds to it, but don't just try and say, well, I do these 3 moves, I really need to get them in. No, I don't think that's a good idea, unless they fit in. And like, oh, there's just so much things, and I don't know, like there's no wrestling rule book, and it's so hard to figure out what I should do and what I shouldn't do and what I'm going to do to rub someone the wrong way. And no, not everyone's going to like everyone. Nobody's going to be friends with everybody, and everyone's going to, have people that they don't like as much as they like as the next people, and so on and so forth. But it's really hard business you're in because you can never do anything right. And also, like, if you're wrestling somebody, when do you approach them and say, sir, can we talk about the match? Like, some people are different. They don't want to talk about the match, and they don't want you asking them. And then they're like, look at this guy asking me when in the match. And then some people, you'll talk to them right away. Hey, nice to meet you. I guess we're wrestling tonight. And they want to talk about the whole match for 5 hours before the show. And I mean, to each their own. I guess that's fine too, right? But like, when do you decide to approach the person? I was always taught to say, nice to meet you, I'm working you, and then go sit in the corner and wait until you were approached. But now that I've been wrestling 17 years, mind you, I'm not one of those guys that's done 50,000 matches. Does that mean more? Or like, I've been around locker rooms. I just try and learn from the guys that I had a lot of respect for. Like when I was in the locker room, like Giza Coleman and Reggie Marley and Ruffy Silverstein, I just seen how they acted, and I tried to conduct myself like they did, and I still to this day do it. And like, you should also have confidence. Like if you were trained right in a wrestling school properly, you should be able to go out there and wrestle. You shouldn't need to plan a million things. I mean, obviously you do want to plan a couple things because it's going to be better. It's then you can, you got some really exciting. If you just go out there and don't plan anything, well, sometimes the crowd is going to be left shortchanged. But if it's someone you've worked 15 times, well, it's okay to do that because you know each other's style and you know what they're going to like and what you're not going to like. I like when you wrestle someone a couple times and then you try out some different things and then you go to the back. That, to me, after the match, picking the match apart is where I learn the most, where we're like, wow, this worked and this didn't work and we should have done this here and we should have just not done this at all and we really should have added something in here. Like that, I love the psychology of it, but it's also hard because if you wrestle the same match and you're like, okay, this time we'll do everything different, if it's in front of a different crowd, and every crowd is different, even if it's at the same venue, because you got different people in there, and depending where you are on the card, and how many drinks the audience has had, they might respond differently, so you're never gonna, you can always learn in wrestling, that's the main thing, you're never gonna get it figured out all the way, and if you think you have it figured out, please don't be wrestling. Like, if you think you know everything, then please, just don't even wrestle, because you should always want to learn and always want to get better. And to this day, like, I will ask people advice and say, please, what can I do better? I really like to ask the refs. And sometimes they're, like, surprised that I would ask them. Or sometimes I really like to ask the fans, too, or, like, the cameraman, or sometimes the kids, like, what did you like about this? I always try to ask, what didn't you like? Because, like, I pretty well generally know what works, but I want to know what wasn't good. I can learn from that way more. Like, if they tell me what I did wrong, and people don't want to tell you. They, like, even if they know something that did wrong, a lot of times they don't want to. So there's a few guys I know I can trust to give me an honest opinion, and they'll say, yeah, I didn't really like that, and they'll explain why. And I really like to watch my matches. I find I learn a lot from them too. Like, I will sit and watch a match 10 times, and every time I'll watch something completely different. Sometimes I'll watch just the crowd in my match. Sometimes I'll just watch my face. Sometimes I'll watch the referee, and like those kind of things. Like, and I just watch it completely different every time, and from different angles and different points of views. And so all this stuff is very important, I find. And also, like I said, I have a lot of questions. I don't have all the answers. I'd like to hear other people's opinions because even if they're right or wrong, I like to know how people feel. But I don't think there's no majority. I think if I asked 100 people, I'm not going to get 100 people that agree completely on one thing. Everybody was brought up different. Everyone has different beliefs, and the business has changed too. Like, if I ask people 15 years ago and then I ask them now, it's a completely different. Depends what locker room you're in. I mean, I believe everybody in their hearts has it that they want to go out and put a good show on and entertain the fans. I mean, there is some people out there that just want to get their own stuff in and they don't care about anything else as long as it's on tape and they did their 4 moves or whatever. Like, to me, I don't even bother having too many moves because it's like, why even bother? Because I don't feel like they need to. It depends. If I'm wrestling a 7 foot tall guy, I'm not going to be able to do this move. And if I'm wrestling a smaller guy, I can actually maybe pick him up and do something. So it just depends. But I really, really want to hear what other people think about this. I wish this would be a topic of discussion because I feel like I can learn a lot just from other people's opinions. Even if you're a fan or a wrestler or especially a ref. The refs see it way different than the fans and the wrestlers see it. And they have really great opinions. So this is episode 80 of The Willow Show. Remember, like, or you get a leg drop. Comment, or you get a clothesline. Subscribe, or you get a suplex. I'm your host, Elian Habanero. I love wrestling. Cuba!